Speaking of destroying the enemy, next question is, how do you deal with rules of engagement? Are they necessary? Did they inhibit you?
This is a question we get all the time, and people want to talk about rules of engagement. Everyone, there's always complaints. Guys, you come back from the battlefield, like, the rules of engagement are so stringent. And these are different wars we're fighting. These are counterinsurgency wars. And oftentimes people use the term civilian casualties in a way of that's they're talking about innocent civilians. But what they don't realize is that everyone we're fighting is a civilian. None of them are uniformed members of an opposing military. They blend into the populace. They act like they're normal people. They hide amongst the people. Often, sometimes use them as human shields, and then they're shooting at you and shooting RPGs or machine guns at you, and they maneuver. So it's a very challenging environment. But the rules of engagement really don't change. The rules of engagement are pretty clear, and you observe a hostile act, bad guys shooting at you or shooting at friendlies, or you observe hostile intent, meaning that, and that's where it becomes a little more gray area to say, okay, was that person acting in a manner that had a reasonable certainty of hostile intent? And so it's a judgment call up to the troops on the battlefield, and those rules of engagement don't change. They're always the same. I think what changes is leaders. Leaders change, and there's some leaders that are willing to delegate that down to the lowest level troopers, trust in their guys, train them, make them understand just how important it is to make sure that they're operating within that rules of engagement, that they are not accidentally engaging some innocent person and causing collateral damage that they didn't mean to. So and there's some leaders that won't delegate that and keep it tight and want to really scrutinize guys for making the call. I think the best way for us, this was incredibly important. People need to understand how our troops are put in a tough position, because we know that anything we do in today's world with social media, with news, news cycles, could be absolute front page headline news in a heartbeat, and those can have massive, catastrophic effect on the entire strategy. The strategic mission. So this is something that we have to deal with regularly, and if a guy thought he thought he saw someone digging in the road and there were an IED layer, and he decided to pull the trigger on someone that he thought was an IED layer, and it turns out it's not, we get investigated for that. It becomes a big deal, and that shooter, our U.S. serviceman or woman who engaged, is potentially looking at going to prison for something like that. So it's a big deal if they violate the rules of engagement. One of the ways that Jocko did an amazing job of this, and one of our 4 principles, our laws of combat that we talk about, is simple. And one of the ways that he did this for us was, all this lawyer speak of reasonable certainty of hostile intent and all these things. He would stand up before we rolled out the gate every time, every single operation, and say, if you have to pull the trigger, you better make sure the guy you're killing is bad. Simple. Everyone understood that, and we had total faith and trust in our guys to do that. And I'm so proud of that they were able to execute with tremendous discipline and minimize collateral damage in a way that other units couldn't, in the way we did that. So I think rules of engagement are necessary. People have to understand them, and it's really whether or not it's delegated down is entirely up to a leader.
Yeah, and you could see the situation that led up to My Lai, which we did a couple podcasts ago. The rules of engagement were the way that they were briefed. It wasn't, hey, make sure the people that you're killing are bad. It was, everyone in this area is hostile. Everyone has been warned to leave. So everyone you see is either Viet Cong or Viet Cong sympathizer. Kill them. And there's some scrutiny about whether they said kill them or not, because that was a pretty simple, clear message. But the difference in that, the way that the rules of engagement were briefed, were definitely a cause, one of the causes for the My Lai massacre happening. It's an awful situation. Rules of engagement. All right.